Lane, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about. My regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and everything in between there. The podcast that I released today, I had my brother on, Scotty Johnson, and we delved into the NBA. We talked about David Vanderpool not being hired by the Minnesota Timberwolves. We also talked about the Clippers Milwaukee Bucks game. We got into LeBron James and the Lakers. We got into a lot of some Golden State Warriors stuff. We talked about the Golden State Warriors, and we relitigated the All-Star reserve selections. Noticeably, Trae Young and Devin Booker were both not on the original reserve list. Devin Booker ended up getting he was a first alternate because Anthony Davis obviously can't play because of the Achilles calf injury, whatever Anthony Davis is going on that won't allow him to play. So me and Scotty talked about that. So definitely check that podcast out. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just type in Daryl Lane and you will find it. So here's what we have for today. Obviously, big news in the NFL. J.J. Watt signs with the Arizona Cardinals. Really interesting. I think this is for the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals, are they potentially contenders? Deshaun Watson, some more news coming out of his camp. Some NFL reports that I think are interesting about potentially expanding the NFL season. Also broadcasting rights. And an interesting little thing I saw about minorities getting hired in the NFL. And a really big moment happened in college football over the weekend. So we're going to get into a lot. So first, let's start with this. J.J. Watt signing with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I would have preferred to see him go to a team. I personally would have preferred to see him go to the Steelers. You have him and TJ. You have both the Watt brothers together. I think that'd be a cool, funny, interesting storyline. But obviously, that is not going to happen. I think he could have been a good player for the Bills to pick up, for the Cleveland Browns to pick up. Those are two teams off the top of my head that I think he'd be really interesting for. But he's going to the Cardinals. The Cardinals, and I just saw this, and this was tweeted out, since 2012, who has the most sacks in the NFL? Chandler Jones, who plays for the Cardinals, at 97, number 2. J.J. Watt at 95.5. You're going to have J.J. Watt, you're going to have Chandler Jones, and you're going to have Isaiah Simmons. What a freaking front seven. They still have DeAndre Hopkins. They have Kenyon Drake. You have Kyler Murray, who's coming into his own. And I think Kyler kind of got banged up and kind of wore down as the season. They went through the throes of the season. But this Arizona Cardinals team is locked and loaded, and they are going to be a dangerous player in the NFC West. Now, speaking of the NFC West, and what I want to get into when I talk about this is this. So here's how loaded the NFC West is. And if anybody disagrees with me, tell me. Is there a better division in football? And any of your opinions, whether it's the AFC East, AFC West, NFC North, South, all that. Is there a better division in the NFL? Clearly. Or even something close to what the NFC West is. So you have the Rams. They have Sean McVay, who's one of the best coordinators, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. You have Matthew Stafford, who I think is going to be a big plus for this Los Angeles Rams offense. The Rams made the playoffs last year with Jared Goff, who was playing abominable down the stretch. And they had some backup quarterback. I'm forgetting his name, but I believe he played for Wake. They have Robert Woods. They have Cooper Kupp. They have Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive players in all of football. Then you have the 49ers, who a couple years ago were in the Super Bowl, right? They have Kyle Shanahan, another guy we regard as a top offensive mind. Nick Bosa's coming back. They have Javon Kenshaw, a really good, young, talented defensive line. Good offensive line, can run football. Jimmy Garoppolo, and who knows, maybe they'll throw themselves randomly in the play for Deshaun Watson, and this would take them up a whole nother level. So you have the Niners. Then you have the Seahawks. And I know there's all this controversy going on about Seattle, about what's going on with Russell, but my God, they still won 10, 11 games, right? You still have Russell Wilson, you have DK Metcalf, you have Pete Carroll. They're going to be good too. And then, obviously, I just talked about the Cardinals. All these teams can make the playoffs. So I think the NFC West is going to be scary good. It's going to be a meat grinder. So on the Deshaun Watson front, the QB, and it's really interesting with those rumors. Basically, he's frustrated that the Houston Texans have refused to take calls and trade him. Right now, Houston, they're ghosting him about it. Deshaun Watson's ghosting Houston. Houston is ghosting out all the other teams. They're calling him. It's like, hey, you can we get Deshaun? How many picks? Hang up. Beep. See ya. Wouldn't want to be it. That's what's going on right now. They are getting the proverbial hand. What I think is interesting about this, about Deshaun Watson being upset, it goes both ways. You know who's upset? Nick Caserio. John Carroll alum, by the way. Sure, John Carroll. Football powerhouse. Hire a lot of people that are doing some great things in the NFL world. But Nick Caserio, John Carroll alum, he got the job. He was the second in command for the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is the head coach and the GM. He was second in command to Bill Belichick. He took this job in Houston and left Bill Belichick because he assumed he was getting Deshaun Watson, a top 5 quarterback. Then he finds out that Deshaun Watson wants to trade. So Nick Caserio was kind of pissed off too. And that's why he said, we're not trading the player. We don't want to, we're not accepting calls, because he wants to make it work, because he took the job. He's putting his reputation on the line. You also go to David Culley, African-American coach, 65 years old. It's probably his only opportunity in the NFL. And I'm assuming a stipulation of this was that he thought that potentially he was going to have Deshaun Watson, and now he's not. So everybody is upset. So I think it's important for Deshaun to realize that, and then realize, listen, Matthew Stafford went for 2 first-round picks. If Matthew Stafford can go for 2 first-round picks, what the hell do you think Deshaun Watson should be going for? At least 4. At least 4. You have to start the conversation there. I don't know if teams are willing to go that far, because a lot of these teams, they value the first-round pick. So I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. So the NFL reportedly is going to play a 17-game schedule in 2021. This has been talked about a lot, about the NFL potentially going to more than 16 games. I believe I've heard 17 floated around. I think I've heard as many as 18 floated around. In this scenario, it would be 17 games in 2021, and the AFC team would have 9 home games. Obviously, they're doing this more money for the NFL. The players will probably buck, because they always buck. They always bow down to the NFL and the owners and what Roger Goodell and all of them want. This will be more money for everybody. But personally, for me, I think what's in danger of this, I think the special thing about football is it's once a week and we all get geared up. I don't think we actually need more. And I know they added even an extra playoff game, but I don't know if we need more. Like, I'm not going to have a problem with it. I love football. Football is my favorite sport. I'm still going to watch it, but do we need more? And then particularly when there's all this talk about concussions, player safety, do we need it? So I think that's something to think about. So in terms of broadcasting rights, ABC will rejoin the Super Bowl broadcast rotation for the first time since 2006. Now, in 2006, the last time ABC hosted a Super Bowl, I believe, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl. So that was a long time ago, folks. I think I was like in elementary school when this was all going on. So I was like in 2nd or 3rd grade, something like that, in 2006. That was a long time ago. 2006 was a very long time ago. But ABC/ESPN, Walt Disney, they are now back in the mix. NFL, like we said before, 17 games, more money. NFL, big business. ESPN's kind of like, we want a piece of that pie. We want what CBS has. We want what Fox has. We want what who's the other network? NBC, Fox, CBS. We want what those 3 have. And obviously, they get a lot of eyeballs. The Super Bowl is the most viewed thing in American life, really. It gets like 50 million views. It's the most watched event. I think it might be the most singular watched event in the world. So somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe soccer heads in there in Europe. But most watched event. So obviously, ABC wants to get a piece of that pie. So in terms of NFL coaching and diversity, I thought this was really interesting, because a lot of people always talk about boohoo, how unprogressive the NFL is. No minority coaches, no African-American coaches. So the NFL, and let me get this right here, because I want to make sure I'm quoting this verbatim correctly. It doubled from 18.8% in 2020 minority candidates, coaches of color. That's what it says, coaches of color. In 2020, 18.8% of coaches on staffs were coaches of color, and went up to 34.6 in 2021. And this is from the Associated Press. So obviously it's not perfect, but I think it's showing that the NFL, they do care. And I know sometimes everybody focuses on the head coach, because that's what gets the most publicity, for better or for worse, right? It's like when things go wrong, you always have to blame the coach. But I think the NFL is doing things. I think sometimes it's not only you have to look at the head coach, you have to look at who's on the staff. What positions are they on the staff? I think it's really interesting when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is a white guy, but his offensive coordinator is African-American. His defensive coordinator is African-American. His special teams coordinator is African-American. I believe his associate head coach is African-American as well. So I think it's always important to look at that when we're talking about not only diversity in terms of head coaches, but diversity in the staff. And lastly, North Dakota State, they are one of the best FCS programs in the history of the sport, basically. They've been the best. They won like 3 straight national championships. They lost their first game in 39 tries. So they've won 39-game winning streak. Now think about that. We think Alabama is the standard of college football. Alabama's never won anything close to that. So just their dominance, I think, was impressive. But here's the crazy thing. They got blown out 38-14. 38-14. The first game of the year. 38-14. And they're on a 39-game winning streak. Obviously, Trey Lance, one of their quarterbacks, he is gone. They have a tackle who's gone as well. But really shocking and surprising. Also, I did not do my I've usually been doing prospect scouting. I think I'm just going to do that a little separate video for the prospect scouting, just to let everybody know. And I'll probably do that. I'll probably do one tonight. I'll fire up one tonight, but I'm going to be doing that separately from outside the shop. Just want to let everybody know. And also, everybody, have a great day. God bless, and tune into my next podcast, which will be on Wednesday. Have a great day, everybody.